Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Fran Madigan, and I'm the chair of the Worcester Regional Research Bureau. It's great to be back together in person for the first time since October 2019. At that annual meeting, our 34th, we were honored to have Dr. Francis Collins from the National Institutes of Health as our featured speaker. During his talk, Dr. Collins expressed concern that we might be due, in his words, for a potential serious worldwide pandemic, and he indicated it could arrive in the next year. Little did we all know that approximately 3 months later, we were all introduced to COVID-19, which forced the Research Bureau and many other organizations and companies to hold their meetings remotely. So we had a meeting number 35 and 36 in a virtual format. So again, I'll state it's great to be here in person at the DCU Center with all of you. And this is not to put any pressure on our panel that will be talking later, but be careful what you say. Now, I was a little, when staff told me about what Dr. Collins said, I basically said, I got to look at the tape. So I looked at the tape, because I was here that day. But for those of you who might want to revisit Dr. Collins' talk at the 34th annual meeting, it is available on the Research Bureau's website. And his comments on a potential pandemic can be found at approximately 57 minutes in. And it's certainly worth a listen. And and it made me it made me listen again, and that talk is worth listening to again. So it was pretty prophetic what he said. At this time, I'd like to call the 37th annual meeting of the Worcester Regional Research Bureau to order. Welcome to our board members, sponsors, partners, and guests. I would also like to welcome the elected officials joining us today from the City of Worcester, the House, and the Senate. I'd also like to welcome many new folks joining us today, as it's been 3 years since we last gathered. The Research Bureau was founded in 1985 to conduct independent, nonpartisan research and analysis on public policy issues. We strive to promote informed public debate and decision-making by collecting and analyzing data, offering insight and ideas for exploration, and serving as a resource to address local and regional public policy challenges. This year, we are celebrating Worcester's bright future. The Worcester Regional Research Bureau, like the Worcester community, is built on a strong foundation of those that came before us. Both now stand at the precipice. Worcester's population has grown significantly with economic vitality downtown and neighborhood desirability. Worcester is the place to be. There's a buzz. However, to fully embrace this bright future, Worcester must ensure that it makes informed decisions based on data and facts, not just the buzz. Similarly, the Research Bureau has utilized new tools to display data and improve transparency, but to fully access this bright future, it must engage all of you. As policymakers, business leaders, community members, you'll make the decisions to determine the future of Worcester. The Research Bureau will continue to guide this discussion through its research, data, and leadership. I'm honored to be here today to officially call this meeting to order, celebrate another year of activity, and look forward to the future with our esteemed panel who will discuss Greater Worcester's talent advantage for life sciences. But first, we're going to start with the business portion of the meeting. I'd like to call on Dee Moskos, our clerk, to give our clerk's report.
There should have been minutes distributed to all the members, and unless there's any changes to that, I would accept a vote to adopt the minutes for the last board meeting. Paul Kelly moves, Todd seconds. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye, opposed, so voted. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Paul Kelly, the Regional President of Berkshire Bank, member of the Bureau's Executive Committee, and the Research Bureau's Vice Chair, who will offer a few words of welcome.
Fran, I'd actually remembered when Dr. Collins said that. I think this year, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that next 12 months we might be heading towards a recession. Just putting that out there. I don't know. You can document that and put that down, but that's just my best guess, right? Well, thank you today. Berkshire Bank is proud to be the presenting sponsor for the 37th annual meeting for the Worcester Regional Research Bureau. The work they do provides independent, nonpartisan research analysis of public policy issues to promote good governance, inform public debates, and decision-making. I'm also proud to serve as the vice chair on their board of directors. As a regional president of Berkshire Bank, I welcome you to today's program. Berkshire Bank is a 176 years community bank with locations throughout New England and New York. Our vision is to be a high-performing, leading, socially responsible community bank. We provide business and consumer banking, mortgage, wealth management, investment services through our teams of dedicated borrowers. Today, we have Chris Costa. Where are you, Chris? He's head of our middle market. Bob Ronfrey is head of our business banking. Christina Andrioli is head of our private banking. Mark Van Alzo is head of our real estate. Nicole Martin, I think she's here today too, is one of our My Bankers. And Rick Thal, he's the head of our retail. They're really terrific people. We have a digital platform that helps make banking services available when, where, and how you want it. This includes this unique My Banker program, which provides personal concierge-level service 24/7 at no cost to you. Berkshire Bank is here to help and be your partner. Whether purchasing a car or a home, saving money towards future goals, opening a small business, we are here to provide sound financial counsel and match you with the right financial solutions to meet your needs. Berkshire Bank was recognized among the top 10 of America's most trusted banks in Newsweek's magazine in 2022. At Berkshire, we believe that building a stronger communities require a better approach to banking. We bring the strength and resources of a big bank combined with the heart and attention of a community bank. This concept is at the core of our people, our culture, and the work we do daily. Berkshire Bank looks forward to working with its community, help empower the economic potential by fueling small business, community financing, philanthropy, financial access, and empowerment, and environmental sustainability. We remain committed to supporting the communities in which we operate. We hire local bankers, growing our presence in Central Mass, and investing back into communities. This ties to today's topics of Greater Worcester's talent advantage for life science. We look forward to hearing from our featured panelists. I also, Ed Augusta, you're somewhere out there. Where are you? Oh, right there in front row. I should have known that, Ed. Sorry about that. My fault. Where is he? He's the tallest guy in the room. I should have known that. I also want to congratulate Ed Augusta on all your years of service as a city manager and receiving the Fairman C. Cohen Municipal Leadership Award. You definitely made a difference in our community. Please give us a call, as we're here to help you. Eric is next. We have a little short. I guess it's not working. It's okay. Oh, thanks. Thank you.
At Berkshire Bank, every dollar is an investment. Sure, your own money may grow, but your entire community grows as well. It helps neighbors purchase homes. It enables volunteers to make a difference. It funds new businesses, greener technologies, and stronger communities. At Berkshire Bank, your dollar does a lot more for you, your community, and lifelong careers here at home. Where you bank matters. Berkshire Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Thank you, Paul. I'll be in touch tomorrow to find out exactly what week that recession will be starting. We thank Paul and Berkshire Bank team for their generous support as today's presenting sponsor. We're grateful for your longtime support of the Bureau and commitment to the entire Worcester community. At this time, I'd like to introduce Deborah Penta, Chair of the Nominating Committee and the immediate past Chair of the Research Bureau Board, to present the Nominating Committee's report.
Thank you very much, Fran. It is now my pleasure to present tonight's slate as seen on the slides. For our officers serving a one-year term, we have Fran Madigan, Chair, Paul Kelly, Vice Chair, George Tetler, Treasurer, Dee Moskos, Clerk, Rick Powell, Vice President for Finance, and Katie Crockett for Assistant Clerk. For our Executive Committee members, we have Kola Akindal of WPI joining for a 3-year term, Dr. Abraham Haddad and Eric Torcano, each reviewing and renewing a 3-year term, Deborah Penta and Rita Smith, each for a 2-year term, and Todd Rodman and John Spillane for a 1-year term. Additionally, as approved by our Board of Directors, we are delighted to announce our new Chairman's Council, whereby past chairmen and women are invited to serve on this new advisory council. We would like to thank our former chairs, Karen Duffy, Sandy Dunn, Flip Morgan, Mike Mulrain, and Eric Schultz for all joining our inaugural Chairman's Council. This slide, pictured on the screen, now shows our new board members joining our Board of Directors: Melanie Bonzu, Greg Byrne, Brooke Cooper, Buba Diem, Carolyn Jackson, David Lapointe, Michael Lavoie, Michael McDermott, Diane Power, Dr. Amy Shea, Matt Schwartzman, Stephen Tyler, Dr. Seth Wall, President Gregory Weiner, and we want to thank all of them for their leadership in our community and for joining our esteemed Board of Directors. The next slide shows our board renewals, and we thank you all for your continued service on the Worcester Regional Research Bureau's board. We appreciate all of your efforts. Finally, we have those members that are retiring and rotating off of our Board of Directors and Executive Committee. And we wish to thank all of them for their insights and contributions to the Bureau over the many years. It has truly been an honor to work with so many of you, and I want to particularly thank Mike Mulrain, our longtime Executive Committee member, former chair of the board, and assistant clerk. We appreciate his dedication to our organization, and we are honored that he will continue to serve on our Chairman's Council. And at this time, I would like to ask for a motion to accept the slate of our nominations to the board of the Worcester Regional Research Bureau. May I have a motion? Thank you. Any opposed? All those in favor? Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you to our outgoing board members, and to our new board members, congratulations and welcome. We're excited to work with all of you. Before I start my formal remarks on the work of the Bureau, it's my distinct pleasure to recognize this year's recipient of the Fairman C. Cohen Municipal Leadership Award. Fairman Cohen was a local executive at both Norton Company and Bowditch and Dewey. He was one of the Research Bureau's founders and a role model for engaged citizenship. This award recognized those who, like Fairman, committed their time and intellect to improving Worcester, and it's presented to a person of remarkable merit, one who leads with purpose and passion, and has made significant contributions to his or her community. This year's recipient certainly embodies the ideals of this award. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Edward M. Augustus, Jr. I have a plaque that I will be giving to Ed in a minute, but instead of reading from the paper, I'm going to read from the plaque. It says, the Worcester Regional Research Bureau is pleased to present its Fairman C. Cohen Municipal Leadership Award to Edward M. Augustus, Jr. A ship requires many hands to steer it through both calm and fury. In his tenure as city manager, Edward M. Augustus Jr. demonstrated his ability to lead those many hands of Worcester through both good times and bad. Sailing Worcester along the sunny shores of the cultural and economic Worcester Renaissance through the turbulence of an unprecedented pandemic, and all the while bringing a new baseball team aboard, Ed captained the well-built ship with a clear vision. The Research Bureau presents this award in appreciation of all Ed has done for the city and its people. In honor of his excellence and accomplishments, the Research Bureau presents this award on this 15th day of December in the year 2022. Ed, we're grateful to your dedication to Worcester. Thank you. You're welcome to say a few words.
I always have to do that. First, let me say thank you very much to the Research Bureau for this honor. I'm very humbled by it and very much appreciate what you do for our community. You were a great resource when I was city manager. Sometimes I agreed, sometimes I disagreed with what you put in the report, but you were always motivated by informing not only decision makers, but the community at large, with facts, with data, with best practices. And that's how we should be having our debates and our discussions about how to move our city forward. Informed by data, informed by best practices, informed by information and facts, and then try to craft a path forward. And the Research Bureau has always been a great resource. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for this honor. Secondly, I just want to publicly congratulate Mayor Petty and the Worcester City Council for making a decision that I think is absolutely in the best interest of the city of Worcester in naming Eric Batista the permanent city manager of the city of Worcester. I had a chance to work side by side for 9 years with Eric as he took on more and more levels of responsibility in city government. And the council has appointed somebody who not only knows the ins and outs of city government, who's smart, who's connected to the community, but he loves this city. He owns a home here. He's raising his family here. Eric is going to lead us into an even brighter future for the city of Worcester. So I'm excited to see what he has in store for our community. And finally, let me just say, you know, Worcester is at such a unique time in our history. As somebody who was born and raised in this city, I remember a time when Worcester, you know, was the butt of jokes. And quite honestly, we as a community often fed into that. That self-deprecation that we had, that sense of, oh, it's Worcester. And if there's one thing I'm very proud of, is over the last 10 or 15 years, we have shed that. We wear our pride coming from Worcester and being part of Worcester on our sleeve. And you know what? When you see that, it's infectious. People gravitate, not to cockiness, but to confidence, to pride, to civic pride. And we need to keep that going. We can have tough discussions, we can have important debates, but we always have to remember this is a great city filled with great, amazing people, and Worcester's best days are ahead of it. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Ed. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. Ed did have a prior engagement, so he's not running out on us. He has a place to go. I'm excited to be here in person today. Welcome you all to our 37th annual meeting. Thank all of you for your support during the past year. The Research Bureau is unique. Oh, actually, Ed was a little taller than me here. The Research Bureau is a unique and vital asset to this community and characterized by many impactful and insightful reports and briefs. This year alone, the Research Bureau has covered significant community issues, including broadband access, food insecurity, residential rate affordability, public school finance, strategic planning and governance structures. The Bureau has also covered timely issues such as the Community Preservation Act, which was on the ballot in November, and inclusionary zoning, which remains in front of the City Council. The Bureau's Worcester Almanac, thanks to the support of Unibank, has been a key publication providing data on all things Greater Worcester. And breaking down the budget translates complex city and school department budget documents into an easily digestible format. That's not easy. All these reports and more are available on the Bureau's website. This institution is devoted to serving its community by examining the issues through factual, data-based approach. Paul Matthews will get into greater detail on the Bureau's activity, but I wanted to highlight the significant strides the Bureau has made over the past year around data visualization and interactivity with ingenious mapping and comprehensive data dashboards. These public resources give all of you the tools to make informed decisions for your companies, organizations, and municipalities. I encourage you to take a look. You'll find that reading our reports online with a mouse handy will open up a whole new dimension in our research and data. As many of you might know, because most of you on the mailing list, there's been quite a few reports in the last 3 or 4 months. And I, like many folks, I used to take the reports, and I happen to still use this paper. And for the reports, you got to have the mouse. It's amazing what these reports can do. Paul will mention that a little bit more later. It's the reports, but it's so much more. So I urge you to go to the websites, and when you look at our reports, go to the bottom. There's a tutorial on how to use it, which Paul will talk about later. The investments in Research Bureau's bright future would not be possible without the generosity of those in the room and beyond. The support of the Worcester community is incredible. You have recommended topics, assisted with our research, given generous financial contributions, and discussed our work both publicly and privately. Thank you to all of you. I want to offer special thanks to the many sponsors of today's program for helping us break another fundraising record. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Berkshire Bank, our speaker sponsor, AbbVie, and our leadership sponsor, Country Bank, as well as our supporting sponsors, including Greenberg, Rosenblatt, Cull, and Bistoli, Penta Communications, Polar Beverages, the Hanover Insurance Group, Massport, and UMass Chan Medical School. I also want to thank Flip and Gail Morgan for their ongoing personal generosity and support of the Research Bureau. I want to acknowledge our esteemed Board of Directors for the consistent support, our Executive Committee, who are unfailingly dedicated to this organization, and I'd also like to recognize the Research Bureau's staff, including Paul Matthews, Eric Nealand, Josh Boucher, and David Cruz Mieja. Thank you for your diligence and hard work. That 4 gentlemen I just mentioned, 2 times of the staff we had at this time last year, and that's one of the reasons why you've been seeing a little bit more product come out. The depth and quality of our research and the reports have been outstanding. Again, to the staff, please be assured your efforts are greatly appreciated. I want to encourage all of you to review our annual report, which you have on your chair, and will be in your inboxes soon. In there, you'll see a complete list of tonight's sponsors, also on the screens. I also want to thank our panelists for being here tonight. I am excited to hear about the future of the life science workforce and how Worcester can be better prepared to assist with the growth for this industry, and also to learn the lessons for all industries who are preparing for their future workforce. Thank you all for the part you've played in the Bureau's storied history and its bright future. I now want to turn the podium over to Paul Matthews, our Executive Director and CEO, for his update on this last year of the Research Bureau's activity.
Thanks very much, Fran, both for everything you're doing today, bouncing up and down, and for all the leadership you provided over the last year, and for bringing us back for a physical in-person meeting for the first time since 2019. I do want to thank everyone involved. Frankly, I'm here as a messenger. When I talk about the Bureau's accomplishments, it's not just my accomplishments, it's not just that of my terrific colleagues who I consider close friends, David, Josh, and Eric. It's all of you. It's a reflection of the support the Bureau's had since the mid-'80s to try to do the right thing in guiding public debate and public decision-making towards the best outcomes. And really, that's what today's all about, right? Guiding a better future. And that's really what the Bureau's dedicated itself to since the beginning. And I'm very honored and flattered to be here as a steward of that effort. However, it's an effort that many people have put effort into since the '80s, all of you and our predecessors as well. So there are far too many people to thank. So frankly, I can't. I would just urge you, please go to the report. Please look at the list of contributors. It's an incredibly impressive list, and it's one that we take very seriously because we could not do the work we do without all of your support. And that includes the board, the executive committee, the officers, our contributors, but also our partners. We've had terrific partners this year, such as Mass Live, Preservation Worcester, Mechanics Hall, the Telegram Gazette, the Worcester Business Journal, and the Worcester Education Collaborative. And our work's been recognized by collaborators like Mass Inc. and Mass Competitive Partnership. Our national peers at the Governmental Research Association have recognized our work, and we've even done work on a national level. This recent redlining release was done in partnership with the University of Richmond and the Mapping Inequality Project. So we've received national recognition for our work. In terms of those that make it all possible, there's many that Fran named. There are two that go above and beyond, and I really want to name. One is Deborah Penta, who's sitting in front of me, and frankly, when I hold up the report, it's the hard work of her and her team making our work look good. And the other is Rick Powell and the team at Greenberg, Rosenblatt, Cullen Pizzoli. They make a 4-person nonprofit work by doing a lot of the backroom and financial specialized services that we need so we can focus on our mission. So all of this support has allowed the Bureau to focus on continuing to guide a brighter future for the region. And as Worcester is emerging from the pandemic, we're facing a myriad of challenges and opportunities. And the Bureau is continuing to do everything we can to provide the data needed for an informed community discussion and best public government decision-making possible. Now, as Fran mentioned, while we're continuing our long tradition of comprehensive reports, please know, those of you who do print it, you need to go to your computer screen. As Fran indicated, I didn't bring a mouse with me to use as a gesture, but I know that we have a slide to show one of our interactive visualizations as an example. This is an effort the staff undertook as part of a collaboration with WEC. It's called Investing in Excellence. And not only did we issue a report breaking down the school department budget by revenue and expenses, we looked at it over a 5-year span. And my colleagues literally hand-entered 5 years of public school budgeting, including on a school-by-school basis. So you can see from this dashboard, it provides a tremendous level of transparency, and the Worcester Public Schools linked to this project. They applaud the transparency, they applaud the effort, and they want to recognize it and make it more publicly accessible. So this is really mission-related for us in a way that goes beyond a direct report. In terms of those visualizations, our work has, as always, addressing some of the most challenging and timely issues affecting Greater Worcester's prosperity. So in terms of those visualizations, the others we have online already, with more to come, include analyzing broadband access and speeds, examining the city's adoption of the Community Preservation Act, and allowing property taxpayers to directly see the impact that surcharge will have, mapping food security across Worcester County, conducting an analysis of the city's residential rents and the cost burdens compared to other cities outside Massachusetts, making available for the very first time a digitally interactive version of Worcester's redlining map from the 1930s That's critically important because decisions were made then, tragically, based on race and ethnicity, and we provide a current day analysis of what's happening in neighborhoods on housing and demographics. We even released a report today. I don't expect anyone's read it yet. We'll have official notice coming. However, we analyze and provide a dashboard on the brand new Worcester School Committee districts. So people will be able to see the districts, how they interact with schools themselves, with city council districts, voting locations. And again, this is a service that the city is recognizing as supplements what they're doing to try to inform citizenry. So while this is an impressive list, I can promise you one thing on behalf of the staff and the leadership: more is coming. The Bureau is going to continue doing whatever we can, whenever we can, to fully inform the community in Greater Worcester. This is critically important because not only is Worcester experiencing its own evolution, not only in population, but there's a significant influx of people new to the community with new approaches and the need to understand what's happening. We're also experiencing profound leadership change. Worcester, as Ed Augustus pointed out, has a brand new city manager who's sitting right in front of me and is here today, as well as a new school superintendent. There is a school committee meeting, so as a result, she's not here. However, both have welcomed the objective research the Bureau does as a way to try to inform public debate and dialogue, and we very much appreciate that. And we look forward to continuing our work with both of them in the changing municipal leadership. However, it's important to recognize another reality, which is we are about to have a brand new gubernatorial administration in only a few short weeks. As a result, we no longer will have the critical high-level voice that we've had for over a decade, and I'll embarrass him because I know he's here, but Tim Murray is our lieutenant governor, as well as Karen Polito. So it's critically important we tell Worcester's story in an objective, effective way. And the continuity that the Bureau provides through our work will be critical to that effort, working with public officials and all stakeholders in the community. So there's no shortage of new research topics for the Bureau to tackle, but it depends on all of you and your help. Please reach out, share your perspective on these issues, share ideas on research topics. You'll find the leadership, whether volunteer or staff, wants that level of input. Those of you who are already supporting us, thank you. Please share your support with others, encourage others to get involved and directly participate in our work. And if you're not directly supporting our work yet, please remember all you're doing is investing in a brighter future, and that's important. So rest assured that while the issues facing Greater Worcester are changing and the governmental leadership is changing, some things do not. The Bureau's commitment to our mission is absolutely not changing, and we will do whatever we can to continue guiding a better future for all of Greater Worcester. So thanks very much for all of your help. I, like all of you, am looking forward to hearing the insights of our expert panel today. For those of you who don't know, they represent a broad swath of leaders that are going to share objective data and insights with us on Worcester's critical talent advantage in life sciences, not just here in the state, but nationally. So I don't want to steal their thunder, but it demonstrates the value of what the Bureau brings to the table. So I want to thank them for their help.
Thank you very much, Paul, and congratulations on a successful year. We look forward to an equally productive 2023. And now it's time for our main event. I'd like to welcome Research Board Member John Weaver to the stage, who will be our moderator and will introduce tonight's panelists. John is President and CEO of Massachusetts Biomedical Initiatives, a nonprofit life science incubator dedicated to job creation and retention throughout Massachusetts by promoting the growth of startup biomedical companies. Please welcome John Weaver. Thank you, John.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm excited to be with you for the next 3 or 4 hours. I hope everybody's got time. If we can have our panelists come on up, we'll get this started. I'll do a quick intro while they walk up here. So, again, good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Weaver, President and CEO of Massachusetts Biomedical Initiatives, MBI. My thanks to Paul Matthews, Fran, and the entire team at the Research Bureau for highlighting biotech in central Massachusetts tonight. We're thrilled to have this topic on the agenda. I also want to congratulate my good friend Ed Augustus, who I saw head for the exits, but hopefully you can all tell him we acknowledged him here tonight. If you are not familiar with MBI, we are the longest-running biotechnology business incubator in the Commonwealth, and we're located in multiple sites across the great city of Worcester. Our mission is to partner with innovative life science startup companies to launch them from concept to clinical trials. You may have seen our new building along I-290 at the edge of WPI's Gateway Park development, and MBI is home at any time to between 25 and 50 early-stage biotech startup companies. Our companies currently employ around 140 people across the city of Worcester, so they're a real economic driver and job creator. And in the past few years, they've raised over $300 million of venture and equity investments into the city. So really bringing new money and investment dollars into Worcester in an exceptional way. The city really is fertile ground for our early stage startups. Today, we're home to companies like Transcode Therapeutics. Transcode completed an IPO last year in the incubator and is working on curing cancer with mRNA technology similar to the COVID vaccine. We should all be really proud of Worcester's role on the front lines of cancer research. And in addition to supporting early stage companies, MBI is a catalyst bringing together area stakeholders in workforce and economic development to have conversations like the one we're having tonight. So enough of me. We've got a great panel, and I think in a limited amount of time, so we should get right into it. So with that, have the panelists introduce themselves. So Rita, would you want to start us off and give us a quick intro?
Absolutely, happy to. Hello, everyone. My name's Rita Smith, and I would just like to thank the Worcester Research Bureau for having AbbVie as a panelist among my esteemed colleagues. Super happy to be here with you all tonight. I serve as the Regional Director for Human Resources for the Americas in Pharma. So that means I'm responsible for about 9 sites across the U.S. in some form or fashion, 1 in Puerto Rico, 1 in Brazil. I've been with AbbVie for 9 years, just celebrated my 9th anniversary on last Friday. And I have the distinct pleasure of also having started at the same time that the company started. So when I get my 10-year pin next year, the company will also be 10 years old. One of the things I'm really excited and proud to share with you is just a little bit more about AbbVie. AbbVie is a biopharmaceutical company. I think many of you know that, but I just wanted to highlight that. And our vision is making a remarkable impact on people's lives. So part of what I do is help the businesses in those locations produce those wonderful products that make a remarkable difference. And so when we think about what does that mean and where are we are in different therapeutical areas of immunology, virology, oncology. Those are the mainstay for us here in Worcester. In addition, we do eye care, allergan aesthetics, so when you think about Botox and some of those other things, that's our company. And last but not least, I know we're focused on Worcester, but I would be remiss if I didn't shout out to my colleagues in Cambridge. We have 2 facilities there, and they focus on neuroscience. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Rita. Ken, can you introduce yourself?
Delighted to, John. So good afternoon or good evening, I guess, at this point. I'm Ken Turner, the president and CEO of the Massachusetts Life Science Center. For those of you who may not be familiar with the center, we are a public-private quasi-agency, government state agency, and our mission is to drive preeminence of the life sciences here in the Commonwealth.
Awesome. And Brian.
Sure. So Brian Cohen, I am a senior vice president with CBRE. We're a global real estate firm. My specific role within CBRE is site selection. So I help companies do the kind of their homework, if you will, before they locate a new R&D facility or biomanufacturing facility or decide where they might move their headquarters. So I have sort of a unique perspective on how companies make these types of location decisions. I'm fortunate to have worked somewhat recently. I saw my friends from Kelleher and Sadowski and former city manager Augustus. Fortunate to have worked here in the city on a number of projects, and I'm really excited about what you have going on. We recently released a research report which shows Worcester among the top locations for life science in the country. and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through here.
We sure will. So we're going to spend a lot of time tonight talking about workforce, which is really an important topic, particularly across all economies right now, but particularly in the biotech industry. Before we get there, though, I really want to try to just set the stage a little bit for our panelists. And one of the things that always mesmerizes me is you drive by the AbbVie building at the corner of Plantation and Belmont Street, which we all do regularly. I think people really have very little sense of the success stories that have come out of that building. And Rita, I was hoping you might be able to take a little bow for our AbbVie team here and talk about some of the success stories that Worcester team has developed.
Absolutely. I'm super proud of the work that AbbVie does, especially here in the city of Worcester. When I think about what we've been able to achieve just right here, we talk a lot about our best-selling drug that many of you know and is very renowned. We also have produced and discovered here in Worcester a few other drugs that I would call out that you probably have seen commercials for in the immunology space. So when I think about where Worcester sits, I did start my career in Lake County, which would be North Chicago and Illinois, and I've been out here for about 4 years now. And when I think about the different products, our portfolio, the different types of drugs we have, and having now been a part of the team here, I always say that Worcester is the crown jewel in the AbbVie portfolio. And not just because we sit here, but because of the tremendous and inspiring work that comes right out of 100 Research Drive. And so when I think about everything that the company is doing and where we need to go in our future and where we've been most recently, it's the men and women who work at AbbVie here in Worcester that have made that tremendous difference to people's lives. When I think about how long we've been here, I don't know if all of you recognize this, but we are celebrating somewhere of 33, 34 years here in the city of Worcester. We started in Cambridge, but have been here right in Worcester for a very long time now. We've won numerous awards when I think about some of the work that we've done in contract manufacturing. So we actually produce here in Worcester products for other companies and have been recognized from a contract manufacturing perspective for many of those opportunities. The one thing I would also say is we also are a pillar of the community. So I don't know how many baseball fans there are out there, but in Polar Park, right in center field, very prominent, you'll see our AbbVie logo. And so not only are we supporting the Woo Sox from that perspective, but we also do many things with them. So as an example, we have a volunteer opportunity called the Field of Dreams, where we have gone out to one of the local Little League baseball fields and renovated that completely. When I think about some of the other places that we've been, we have about 4 or 5 different schools that we're a partner of and partner to during our Week of Possibilities. When I think about some of the other things, we're with Veterans Inc., we've done some things with United Way. So when I think about all the great work that has happened at 100 Research Drive in Plantation Avenue, some of those things come to mind. If you give me one more second here, I think it can be summed up in a quote from one of our scientists. She was asked to tell about AbbVie, and she said, "AbbVie is the anchor helping to build up Worcester as a life science hub while working to make sure it's also an excellent place to work."
Yeah, absolutely. And amid all that, I see our AbbVie friends out there, and I just think Worcester should be really proud of the role we've played, and that team has played with success stories like the world's largest selling biologic, Humira, Skyrizi, Rinvoq, the team really leading the effort and really on the front lines of biotech research. And Ken, you guys recently released a new strategic plan. I was hoping you could talk a little bit about your strategic plan and what the state sees as priorities for biotech industry.
Yeah, so thank you for that, John. So next week marks my 2-year anniversary in the role since I took over the helm of the center, working with our partners at KPMG and the Boston Consulting Group. I asked them to help us to shape how we should think about driving the center's investments under my tenure. And so to that end, the slide that you're looking at is a culmination of that work. It was about 6 months of analysis to put together the drivers to basically 3 main focuses: that innovation, business development, and regionalization are the core strategies for the center. And what I mean by that, to give you an example, is when I think about innovation, that's all about how do we support industry, right, as a state? Where do we make the right investments? And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. A decade ago, there was a fledgling company that was working on a breakthrough technology in the life science field called mRNA. That company is Moderna. And at the time, they had very few VCs that would invest in them. There was one, but the big investment came from the Life Science Center, from the state. And so the way I think about it when I'm working with my team and when I'm working with the administration and the legislature is, what is the next cutting edge science like mRNA that might be on the horizon, that may need government support, because quite frankly, the investment in that research may not be within the criteria and paradigms that the VCs in this sector are willing to invest in. And so innovation is all about driving, quite frankly, good science. When I think about business development, that's very straightforward. It is truly about standard BD stuff. How do we attract the right companies in the life science sector to come to Massachusetts? Which companies should we invest in to scale up? And how do we keep them here? If you look at the center, for example, to give you a couple of data points, since our inception under Governor Patrick's administration back in 2008, the state has invested $1 billion over 10 years in the center, and then under the Polito-Baker administration in 2018, we were reauthorized with another $623 million. So in effect, in our till, we've got $1.5, $1.6 billion worth of capital that we can infuse into our ecosystem. We've invested roughly $900 million in the last 15 years with a leveraged return investment of $5.3 billion. So that's what the center does very well. And so the issue for me is, how do we continue to do that when we know that there are huge challenges on the horizon with regards to talent acquisition, talent retention? How do we focus on our competition? And I put that a little bit in quotation marks if I'm looking at Pennsylvania, or North Carolina, or Georgia, for example, or Maryland, Texas, for example, are all wanting to play in this space in a very aggressive way, as you know. We've got 18 of the top biopharma companies in the world located here with the footprint in Massachusetts. We're proud of that. All 3 vaccines, as you know, were developed here in Massachusetts, which we're proud of that. So there's a lot of success, but we've got to continue to focus on driving business development. The last piece, though, I think is the part that I think probably will resonate more with Worcester and this conversation tonight, which is what I call regionalization. And when I think about all that success that I just talked about, and I could go on with another 15 or 20 data points that all point to how great we are in Massachusetts with regards to being the world's envy in life science. Thanks to, again, to Governor Patrick and Governor Baker's, leadership and vision. But we know that success has been uneven, is the way I think about it. And here's what I mean by that. We've got roughly about 43 million square feet of life science space throughout the state that is already in place and built. We have about another 26 to 30 million square feet of life science space. And when I say life science space, we're talking lab, we're also talking admin space, et cetera, all coming online in the next 2 to 3 years, already under construction, already being built. I'm not talking about stuff that people are thinking about, I'm telling you about stuff that people are building. That equates to a net add of 40,000 jobs in the life science space. Now, granted, all those jobs will not be lab coat folks, or researchers, or data analysts. Many of them will be, marketing people, sales people, et cetera, but the net is we've got 40,000 net new jobs that we're going to have to fill if we want to continue to meet the demands of our private sector partners. So part of the real concern from my view, since I've taken this job, is workforce development. How do we drive more people into the life science space and do it in a way, frankly, that is smart, equitable, and addresses DE&I at the same time? And so, in my mind, no disrespect to the beauty of Kendall Square and the Seaport District where I was last night. You know, it's great, love it, but I want Worcesters. And I mean that. I'm not pandering to you guys. You guys know that. I don't know if Tim's out here or not, but you know, the very first person to call me when I got this job on a Friday night after the news cycle, so I was actually quite shocked that I got the call at home that night, but it was Tim Murray, the Lieutenant Governor. He called me to congratulate me, and he said, hey, you know, it was at the height of COVID, and he said, you know, when we get the opportunity, I'd love to have you come out and see what's happening out in Worcester. And I told the LG that, you know, first chance I got, I was gonna do that. So I made Worcester my first stop, my first whistle stop in this role. I've now been out to Worcester more times than I can count, as you very well know. I keep joking and say I should just get an apartment out here, would be easier. And the traffic coming in from Boston tonight would definitely, you know, signify that. But here's where I'm coming from. If we've got that 40,000 net new jobs that we need to fill, we can't do it by only looking at Cambridge and Boston. We've got to be smarter. We've got to look at the Worcesters, the Springfields, the 26 gateway cities, the Lowells, you know, the Lawrences, you know, the North Shore, the Cape. We can spread out the access and opportunity in a way that I think will not only provide more equitable access to, by the way, median salary ranges of in you know, north of $200,000. But we can bring everyday people into our industry by driving manufacturing. So all of that ties together for me when I talk about driving more manufacturing, regionalization, and access and opportunity. That third block is the one that is the most important to me.
Well, me and Ken are going to go shopping for apartments after this. I heard that there. But let's stay on the topic of workforce. So, you know, what do these jobs look like? So, Rita, can you give us a sense of the job profiles within AbbVie? What do these jobs look like? Do you have to have a PhD? How many people are? Give us a sense of what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick check. Everyone can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So when I think about the job profile for AbbVie, it's broad. It's just as Kenneth was saying, it's not all lab coats, not necessarily all scientists, not necessarily all operators, manufacturers, so forth and so on. However, when I think about, so what does it look like at AbbVie? We're a company of 50,000 people in 70 different countries. Here in the US, we're in Massachusetts, New Jersey, Texas, multiple California, Ohio, and Michigan. And so when we think about who are making these drugs, who are marketing these drugs, who are producing and manufacturing these drugs, we need folks that for sure are in science. We need folks that for sure are in marketing and sales. We need folks that are in quality. There's a lot of quality QC checks, right? FDA regulations. We need our engineers, and I know I've got many different types of engineers, chemical engineers, you know, electrical, so forth and so on. So when I think about what do we need people who really want to make that remarkable impact. And what you see on the screen, I just want to kind of echo Kenneth with regard to diversity and inclusion. So, you know, at AbbVie, along the bottom you see, I belong, I am inspired, and I'm not the only one. We want people who come to work feeling like that every day so that they can bring their very best. So when I think about the culture and I think about what we also do at AbbVie, you know, on the right-hand side, you see the different types of employee resource groups. We want everyone to feel a part. I won't read them off to you, you can see those, but when I think about, therefore, the profile for AbbVie, it's all of the different types of people that you see here, in addition to what they do, what their discipline is, and what they're really good at.
Awesome.
So, yeah, go ahead.
No, thank you. All right, and so let's get into the data. I mean, this is the Research Bureau. Let's get a little bit into the data and how this looks. So, Brian, CBRE recently did a life sciences talent survey looking at all the different markets across the U.S. Hoping you could walk us through a little bit of the research that you all have done.
Yeah, happy to. Earlier this year we looked US-wide at the largest 25 or the top 25 life science markets in the country. And we started by counting the life science occupations across all 385, I believe it is, plus metro areas. Top 74, we ran through a series of filters, much like we would helping a company decide which market to land in, to be honest. And so the size and density of occupational clusters for specific skills, what kind of pipeline of talent was coming out of the local educational institutions, both at a technical level, bachelor's and master's degree level and the PhD level, and that, depending on what the companies are looking for, they may have some combination of those things. Educational attainment in the region and sort of industry employment, as well as sort of what does it cost to hire employees in the market, and then what does it cost them to live. So we'll get into how that all shook out in a minute, if we can jump to the next slide. So I think the theme in Worcester's number 15 placement in the top 25, which is really impressive, maybe surprising to some, not to others, is that Worcester punches above its weight. And this graph, and I know it's small for everyone, shows the top 25 by number of employees in those markets. And you can see Worcester all the way at the right, the little sort of sliver at the bottom, 250, 300,000 folks in the metro area. It's effectively alongside Atlanta, number 14, and Dallas at number 16, kind of the little engine that could. And what, propelled Worcester into this list is its talent-rich workforce that's here today, and also the educational institutions that are perennially, refilling that workforce. And I think one of the keys, and I think we'll get there at the end, what could we be doing better here in the region, is maintaining those folks in the market, having a job for them, making sure they feel that they're in getting the word out of what's going on in Worcester and the cluster is one of the key pieces that's going to help this market succeed. So we can jump to the next. So this is going to be more of the same, sort of punching above its weight. We looked at very specific occupation types that are often housed within R&D operations, and looked at both the size, the number of those folks in the market, but more importantly, and we do weight this more heavily, the density or concentration of those people in the market relative to the size of the market. If you look at something like biochemists and biophysicists, Worcester is 6 times more dense in those occupations than the US overall. So what that means is that there's more of these people walking around, bumping into each other, having coffee, innovating, coming up with ideas. And that's really what density is about, and why it's so important, really more so than size. In a large market like in LA or a greater New York City, and in northern New Jersey, there's industry presence, and it's strong, but it's also sort of a little bit more spread out. And density is a good thing when you think about this industry and the clustering that industry players really like. Jump to the next one. The educational talent pipeline. So again, we looked at, in this particular slide, I'm looking at the number of graduates produced in biological and biomedical sciences, so the number of degrees conferred out of regional institutions against the occupational employment in the region. And LA and New York, which I selected here because they are number 1 and 2 in the list in the total number of degrees conferred against Worcester, they have about 1 of these degree folks per every 1,000 in their occupational employment base, and Worcester's more than twice that. So again, talking about relative to your size, punching above your weight, you're producing more talent in this market than many of these, big markets are.
Maybe, Brian, if I could speak to that.
Yeah.
I would just have a few stats here for just AbbVie here in Worcester. When I think about the education, we've got about 18% PhDs, 23% masters, and 44% have bachelor's degrees, which is a pretty large share of people who are degreed right here at AbbVie, right here in Worcester.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think if you put Worcester in any other community or state across the country, people would be, singularly focused on this as the hub of biotech and life sciences in that state, which is pretty incredible, and we should all have a real sense of pride in. Kind of bringing it home a little bit, let's bring that back to Worcester. Ken, what do you see as Worcester's role going into the future with those statistics?
Well, I think that the future is incredibly bright and exciting. I think the last time I was out here, I was with the Lieutenant Governor Polito and Secretary Keneally at Polar Park. I think that was my last visit out. And you know, it was a great time to kind of come out and meet with some of the developers and some of the construction folks and real estate folks. But when I look at Worcester, I think that morning I said I'd literally see the next Kendall Square. And I don't think that's hyperbole. I honestly don't. Worcester has all of the elements. You have in place, you know, not only an incredibly thoughtful set of leaders across your private sector, your city government, in your educational fields, et cetera, but you've got the right core elements. You have UMass Chan, so you've got your research facility in place that is incredibly, you know, world-renowned. You have great educational institutions. You have WPI, you have QCC, you've got great Votech schools, and a really good, solid school system here. You know, that has good STEM foundational focus for the kids. You have great companies already here in place. AbbVie obviously is, you know, the flagship, but beyond that, you also have Wuxi moving into the reactory. You've got Mustang Bio, you know, that's working on cutting edge cell and gene therapies that will, you know, one day provide novel, you know, modality treatments to cancer. You have, you know, on top of that, MBI, the incubator, which we invested in, as you know, John, to build you, to take a bow. And that was under my leadership, right? The other, what, $4 million that we just gave you? Not that I'm keeping tabs. But that ability to bring, you know, 1 and 2 lab coat scientists into a space where they cohabitate, you know, cross-pollinate, and innovate together is crucial. And when you put all of those elements together that I just talked about, you've got what happened in Kendall Square 15 years ago. You have what happened in the Seaport District 10 years ago. So there is no doubt in my military mind that when I look at Worcester, Worcester is going to be the next, you know, burgeoning ecosystem and cluster in Massachusetts. That's great, but you know, my job is to make sure that that gets repeated over and over and over again. And so, you know, I think that, you know, I use you guys literally as like the poster child of a cluster that is blooming. And we just need to recreate that again in the Springfields of the world, as far out as to the Berkshires and to the North Shore and to the South Shore.
Yeah, and please accept my sincere thanks for that, Ken. So let's turn, in the interest of time, let's turn a little bit to Q&A and hopefully save a little bit of time for potentially an audience question, which you should start marinating on now. In the meantime, we've got a couple of sent in sponsored questions, so let's turn to those. I'll start with the Country Bank sponsored question. Thank you to the friends at Country Bank. As we hear about the tightening capital markets and some layoffs in the industries, does that change your opinion? Or are you still bullish on the market?
Well, I can tell you, you know, I mean, from my view, I think that it's, you know, a bit of a market correction. You know, no disrespect to this industry, which obviously I've become, you know, intimately familiar with over the last couple of years since I took this job. But in my mind, and in the you know, with the analysts that I talked to, including one that I spoke to just last night, it's viewed more of a correction. It's just simply saying many of these startups were overvalued, hypervalued, and now what we're seeing is, yes, there have been some layoffs, yes, there's been some drawing in and tightening of the belt, but by and large what they've done is basically slowed their burn rates. They've taken the excess space that they may have bought, and now they've in effect subleased that out to other fledgling companies that are coming online, which I think is actually healthy, since we have like 0 lab space, again, in Kendall Square in the Seaport District. You can't even find lab space if you had the $120, $130 per square foot. You can't even find it. And oh, by the way, why not come out here where it's $50 a square foot? Just saying. You know, so anyway, I think it's just a mild correction. What I'm really hopeful for is that as we go into next year, assuming that Jerome Powell and the Fed, are spot on, and that we do have a soft landing and we don't go into a recession, and by the end of next year, I'm hoping we'll dip out, and then we'll see yet again more of a robust and more, aggressive growth in the industry. That said, we still have, some $7 billion worth of VC money cock-loaded and ready to go. So, you tell me.
Yeah. And Brian, I see you nodding your head over there. It sounds like you'd agree with that assessment.
Completely, yeah, a healthy correction. And I think Rita can probably attest to the difficulty in hiring the last several years against, the prior 5. I think there's been a level of capital that wasn't sustainable, and so I think we've seen VC funding pull back about 40% year over year in the third quarter, but I think we're back to pre-pandemic levels, which were pretty healthy, right? So we've seen this kind of spike that's now coming back to earth.
Awesome. So, may I ask a question on behalf of our good friends at Paul Kelly and Berkshire Bank? MLSE's invested a lot, the Commonwealth's invested a lot into Central Massachusetts. Brian, curious, what do you see as the key value proposition for companies looking at the city?
So a couple things. I mean, I think what you have here is really strong, and you can tell the story more and louder. You talked about Humira and the other drugs that have come out of this region with AbbVie. I think it's Boston, Cambridge, and Worcester, and not Boston, Cambridge versus Worcester. Ken talked about regionalization, and I know they're doing a good job to incent the movement of the industry or growth of the industry outside of 128 and 495. So I think we can think about it as Worcester as part of basically the #1 life science region in the world, not just the U.S. But I do think the storytelling piece, the fact that you're part of this region, growing the workforce is going to continue to be important, because we talked about it before, Rita and I. We're still, despite the softening, at a very competitive level. And the last thing I would say is, Madison Properties out at the ballpark. I think, there's development potential at Gateway Park. There really needs to be space for the incubators coming out of your program and others, because that's the stickiest, tenant prospects, user prospects you have to grow from, their 2,000 feet to 50,000 feet to the next AbbVie. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, thank you. And for any developers in the audience, we at MBI, we say a lot, we've been talking about building momentum and Worcester being on the rise, and really I think now is the time where we're saying Worcester's here and the time is now. So I hope people will log into that. Paul, do we have time for an audience question? Can we do maybe one? Does anybody from the audience have a question? Sure.
Out of curiosity, what would you suggest higher education can do further to partner with you to make Worcester more of a hub?
Maybe I can start with that one. One of the things that we've been doing across AbbVie, and just when I think about some of the other employers, is partnering more with our universities, and especially those community colleges as well. So we are taking a look at how can we bring students in quicker and earlier and getting them a better foundation. So as an example, we have at AbbVie 3 different kind of earn and learn or apprenticeship type programs. One with Quinsigamond College, an on-ramp program, which is more kind of a certificate program. And then we've got Middlesex Community College, where it's actually they're getting an associate's and some of them a bachelor's, but then their sort of second year in school, then they come and work with us for part-time, so they're getting money in their pocket. We're being able to recruit, and at the end of their degree, we've got a full-time employee ready to go, because oftentimes it takes 6 months or longer for some of our roles for folks to get really equipped for some of our roles. So those are the kinds of things we're definitely doing, not only just the community colleges, but also with our schools like yours and WPI and some others to try to make that partnership a little more stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on a global scale, I would say this, and I think this is like critical to our success as we look for our workforce of the future. We have got to have harmonized curricula across the state, which we don't have today, and in places like North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Maryland, they do, which I think puts us at a competitive disadvantage. I think we've got to think about regional training centers, and we can debate what that means. You know, are we talking about a single institution? Are we talking about brick and mortar? Are we talking about something more ethereal? But I think we need to have kind of a regional training center approach, and I'm very encouraged by a pilot program that's going on in South Boston right now. If you go to the old Boston Globe building, Mass Bio, which is the advocacy group that is, you know, the biopharma advocacy group with some 1,500 members or so, they're partnering with a developer to build out, I want to say, I think it's about either 25,000, 30,000 square foot training center for apprenticeship programs. I'm working with a med device company about an hour or so outside of Boston on a pilot program to accelerate our apprenticeship training, to shrink it down from 8 months or a year down to just, in fact, we've settled on 3 months worth of training, but we've got to be able to wrap that with all kinds of soft services like childcare, transportation, a stipend while they go to school. If you want to get people out of an Uber or doing a hospitality job or whatever and upskill them and reskill them and bring them into life sciences, we've got to support them through that transition. So all of that is the stuff that I want to talk about, you know, with the new legislature and the new administration once Governor Healy and the new Lieutenant Governor Driscoll are in place. But this is the stuff that we're working on and the things that I literally worry about and deal with every day.
And the one other thing I would add from the sort of company site selection standpoint, our friend from Holy Cross and WPI, UMass Med, I mean, the more you can partner with the city and talk to Peter Dunn and be on the front lines as companies are coming in, you know, I think the earlier you can make those relationships, the more likely the city is to attract, because it's a real consideration, and they feel like everyone's got their arms locked to try to make sure they're going to get the people they need to succeed. You know, it's going to help Worcester, it's going to help your schools, students, et cetera.
But I would add just one other thought, but, you know, before we bounce off of this, and that is back to Rita's point, which is I think the greatest model of all of that stuff that I just talked about is, in the end, the beauty is when you've got a company and you've got a training provider, whether it's a non-for-profit, a 2-year school, a VOTEC, a 4-year school, or whatever, where they made up. And in fact, I amplify you guys all the time when I'm out talking, and I'm out talking every week. I go, the Middlesex example, right? The Quinsigamond example, I go, that's what we want across the state. Because then I know that not only are we making the right investments in terms of where we put the labs, where we're making the capital investments, where we're making the investments in training the trainers and all the stuff that the state can do, but I know for a fact that on the end, when those folks come out of that program, whether it's a kid out of high school or college or an adult that's being retrained, I know for a fact they're going to land and have a job. Because in the end, that's what it's all about. I want folks in jobs. And so, you know, it's not training for training's sake. So that to me is the perfect model. And there are a couple of other examples I can point to where there are industry and training providers where they've made it up. BFIT, the Ben Franklin Institute in the heart of Boston, right now is partnering with Ginkgo Bioworks. And I want to see more of that. And that's what I'm advocating for and evangelizing for.
And if maybe I can build on that point, Kenneth, when I think about what you just described, the more industry and people that are ready, I agree with you on the 40,000 in Massachusetts new jobs in biopharma and life science between now and 2025. So if we can pull those resources to Worcester, while I don't want to compete with Worcester, who's right behind me, right across the street, if we have more pool of talent across Worcester, Mass Bio, you know, Mustang, et cetera, then we all have a bigger pool to pull from.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, thank you guys so much for your commentary tonight. I think, you know, Ed Augustus said it really well earlier when he talked about the pride that's built amongst people in Worcester. And if you come away with nothing else tonight, I hope you come away with, you know, real pride and feeling that, you know, Worcester is in fact punching above its weight in the biotech industry, is really on the cutting edge of cancer research, and we owe a lot of that to the leaders on the stage. So help me thank our panelists, and I'll turn it back to Fran.
Thank you all. That was a fantastic discussion. Thank you, John, for your moderating today's discussion. And thank you, Ken, Rita, and Brian, for your insights. I'm excited about the future of this industry in central Massachusetts. It's now time to adjourn for this evening. Thank you all for joining us today, and again, thanks to our generous sponsors who made this program possible. I'd also like to thank Sandy Dunn. Thank you, Sandy, for yourself and your staff for putting on a great event. We appreciate it every year, and you're the best. As you heard this evening, Worcester's future may be bright, but only through the efforts of so many leaders in this room and beyond. The Research Bureau will continue to be a crucial resource for our community grappling with these public policy issues. The Research Bureau has had some important landmark impacts this year and is ready for the new year with a new slate of projects, but we're only as effective as the community that embraces us. So thank you all of tonight's sponsors, the Bureau's supporters, our partners, our board of directors, and our hardworking staff. Tonight's work is done, but there's much to do, and we look forward to continuing work with all of you. I invite you all to join us for reception outside the doors. Thank you.